All right, ladies and gentlemen, unlike the soccer season, which has to come to an end at some point, we just don't. We just keep getting worse and worse and worse. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time once again for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports. That's right, it's the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I am Mike. I am joined, as always, by my faithful partner in all things podcasting, producer Stead. How goes it?
It's going pretty good. Except for my background. My children seem to have taken over the den, so I have to try to reclaim my space. But it was a great wrap up. I'm going to rock my good old AC Milan jersey today. So
yeah,
congratulations to AC Milan. You haven't won a title in quite a long time. I can't even remember. So, but good on you. It was also great to see, the mercenary himself get yet another league title. So it's Zlatan. Congratulations. You're in your year 41 too. So you're going to be 41 by this fall. So you're up here with us. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he's going to continue to play. But yeah, shout outs to AC Milan.
I think it's been at least 12 or 13 years since they last won the Scudetto. Of course, you had their downtime that started in the late aughts and ran through the teens, combined with the reascendance of Juventus, and then Inter Milan picking it up last year. But it is nice. It is something to see the old Rossinieri back up on top.
Yeah, and that that Serie A is better when more than one team is good. I mean, they really are, because they have historic teams that I don't think other one league countries have. Where Italy should not have Juventus win 8 times in a row. It's just bad for the league. It is. So to get into a championship, and then you have Milan go ahead and get one, but Napoli and Roma have been very competitive. So it's not out of the realm to start seeing that trophies start to dissipate throughout the league a bit more. I think it's better for the league, because don't forget, back in the 90s, Serie A was the best league in the world.
Yeah. You can make an argument well into the early part of the century how good Serie A was. It definitely held its place amongst the top 4 when it was genuinely a top 4. For a while, it's been essentially a top 2, Bayern, and then Italy and France, right? So to see, and we'll see, AC has quite a few aging players, but we know Juventus is definitely going through a period of reorganization. Inter probably miss Romelu Lukaku more than they thought this year. We'll see what they come up with. And then it would be nice to see a Napoli or a Fiorentina or, Roma for once. Give a championship to Southern Italy. When can we get a championship back to Southern Italy? Give them a shot. It says in the Bible, and I know they're devout Catholics, I believe it's Acts 3, verse 14 and 15, and the sun doth shine on every dog's ass once in a while. Well, the sun hasn't shined on Southern Italy in quite a long time. We are joined by somebody we haven't seen in quite a while. London Sean, looking good, my man. How goes it, my friend? Oh, he's muted. We're gonna wait.
Unmute. Muty. Right. Hi. How are we doing?
Good to see you, my friend. I know you've been busy. How's the wife? How's the kids? Everybody doing good?
Yeah, everyone's great. Taking over the world, and the business going well, but it's kept me very, very busy. And but apart from that, going well, and a bit sad. I think, as G said today, only 74 days to go before the Premiership starts again. There we go.
And then, we didn't get to celebrate with you when Exeter got promoted. They will be in League One.
Yes, indeed. And I'll give a little shout out to my friend Alistair Blair today, who drove from his home in Ayrshire to Perth and sent me a little text at half time saying we're playing shite, as they do in Scotland, and St Johnstone came out 4-0 winners. So that's great. Well done. He'll be celebrating tonight, having kept their Scottish Premiership status. So well done, Alistair.
Yeah, of course, Arsenal having a good season. Things on the South Coast looking promising.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if have you had a chat about Arsenal yet or not? Or...
No, we were just about to get there, and you popped in, and we were so happy to see you that we held off a little bit. And of course, we also got to welcome in another Arsenal fan down in New Orleans, relaxing, living the good life. Laissez bon temps rouler, or something like that.
Yeah, just last couple of weekends, been down in the French Quarter. I sent some pictures, some choice adult beverages. So yeah, just living the life right now. So think real quickly of who coaches Roma before you want Roma to be winning any kind of championship. So let's put that in perspective. But yeah, it's good to see Serie A, kind of the old score, coming back to actually have some competition within the league. So Inter and Milan and Juve and everyone kind of getting back to the promised land. But when they had the old Italians, maybe, having some kind of payment to refs, maybe a decade or so ago, game fixings, it might hurt some clubs here and there. I don't know, they got caught, kind of thing, but it's always good to see they kind of reeled back from it and kind of got all that kind of negativity out and kind of clean up the system a little bit in Inter and stuff like that. So Milan's back, man. Both of them are back. So black and blue and red and black. It's always good to see, man.
So, Sean mentioned Arsenal, and we'll get on to them shortly, but it was a very good championship Sunday in the Premier League. We got to watch the title change hands at least 54 times during the course of 90 minutes, as did various European places. At one point Arsenal were in the Champions League and then they weren't. Manchester United was in the Conference League, and then West Ham graciously gave us their spot in the Europa League and decided that they did not want to compete at that level, despite the fact that Manchester United and their rotting remains conspired to lose it. We saw a great slippery finish with Everton and Leeds, both of avoiding the drop. So we will bid a fond farewell to Norwich City, back down to the level that they love to be at most. Watford, we hardly knew you. Burnley, it's been real, but somebody's got to go.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that a little bit later. But the news broke.
Firing. They fired Dyche. Did they do that? Yeah, that's what they get.
They fired Dyche. They fired Dyche, and it looked like a smart move for about 3 weeks, and then slowly but surely it came back to bite them, and they will be playing down in the Championship next year. We still don't know the full scope of who will be coming back up. We know, but Mike will be on to give us the previews later. The weekend dawned with the big announcement that, first, Kylian Mbappe was going to make an announcement, which caused me no lack of consternation, as I have seen this before. When LeBron James decided to take his talents to South Beach, and we all know how that went. Not necessarily the play on the court, but the announcement itself has gone down in sports marketing lore as a failed experiment. But Kylian Mbappe made the announcement, and drum roll please, he has decided to keep his talents at PSG. By some estimates, we could be looking at a $200 million signing bonus and up to $25 million a year over the course of the 4-year contract. This is a deal that could be somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million when it's up. But the numbers are, like so many things in soccer, are shady at best. Clearly, money played a factor in this. I also don't want to say that this was entirely about money. He's a French kid. He's a young guy, clearly feels comfortable in PSG in Paris. He must have gotten the assurances that he wanted to, as far as we've heard that, they're going to put a better team around him. They're going to make him the focal point of the attack, and that he will get the captain's armband. So apparently that was enough, and a hefty price tag, to get Mr. Mbappe to stay. I'll start with you, Stead. What did you think of this decision on Kylian Mbappe's part?
Well, it's one of those ones that I don't like, but I understand. I know that from the sole number standpoint from the teams, the money was pretty similar to what Real Madrid were offering, but you have to account for, Macron was talking to him on the phone. There was a lot of external influences that wanted him to stay in Paris, including those people who were influencing him to push for that Monaco move to get back into Paris. So there's something to be said about being in Paris. I will say that. I think from a sheer footballing standpoint, though, I don't think it's the best decision, primarily because of the league he's playing in. It doesn't matter. I know at least if you want to attract this part of the world, Mbappe is lucky enough that his exposure with the France national team has done a lot of that anyway. But playing with PSG versus playing with Real Madrid, you have basically said, okay, there's a certain demographic that I may not hit immediately. And it's just, but in the grand scheme of things, though, I understand it. I just feel like I think he'd be much better off playing against Barcelona week in, week out, and playing against Sevilla and Valencia and Villarreal, and just teams that are a little bit more known. But sadly, outside of Lyon, Lille, and Marseille, who really knows French football outside of my buddy Scott, who's yet to join us on this podcast? So okay, I get it. I don't like it because I'm not going to watch PSG games, and I wanted to actually watch them play a bit more often. So selfishly, I wish he just went to Real Madrid, but I understand, and I don't have any ill will towards it.
Sean, it's clear that until he wins a World Cup and a Champions League, probably in the same year, he will not win the Ballon d'Or. What did you make of one of the bright young talents in world football making the decision to stay in France? And we have said, outside of PSG, there's just not a lot there.
No, there's not, is there? I was surprised, and I think Stead just mentioned that apparently Real made a similar bid. So as we said, it's presumably at this stage not about money, but I was very surprised that he stayed in France. It's a one-team league, and will stay like that for years to come. I think the disparity between the budgets that PSG spend and all of the rest of the French league is pretty ridiculous, really. We have a couple of players on loan to Marseille at the moment, and they are complaining that they haven't got the cash to buy one of them. I'm worried that the rest of the French league might be a little bit skint, to say the least, and I think that's true of many of the leagues. So this is where that Champions League money becomes so important to teams right across Europe, getting that additional sort of 100 million into their budgets. But I think I'm not sure how many goals he scored, but he got a phenomenal amount of goals this season as well, hasn't he? So
34.
How many?
I think 34. I don't know why that number's in my head, but it's definitely.
I'm sure that stat boy Rob will pop up momentarily.
Yeah.
With the correct accounting, but scoring 34 goals in Ligue 1.
Mm-hmm.
You could score 50 goals in Ligue 1. Mm-hmm. Given the state of their defenses, and what would we equate that to? 22, 23, 25, 27 in the Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll find out that metric, won't we, next season, with a certain Norwegian who obviously was scoring for fun in Germany, and now will ply his trade in the Premier League. So we'll see if those sort of figures translate for him as well. But you're right. It's an easier league to score in, I would say, than up against some of the Premier League defences. It's a bit of a shame. Yeah, we definitely have seen more of him, I think, if he'd moved to Madrid, just from a television exposure perspective. But, he'll be crying in December when basically when Harry Kane lifts the World Cup, and we'll be partying for a long time over here, basically.
Yeah. He's also still really young, though, and he's only like 23. And
23,
so PSG is also setting this up. So Real Madrid, you won't even have to pay him for us. Because excuse me.
It's a bit of a shame that it didn't work out for us guys, Ted and G, because obviously Arsene went over to see him and his parents about 7 years ago and begged him to come to the Emirates.
He'd have been starting at 16. He'd been starting at 16. He'd been starting.
Gee, is Kylian Mbappe one of those guys? We've talked about the difference in the exposure worldwide of the French league and La Liga. It's actually probably easier to see the French league over here, considering it's on ESPN Plus, whereas you have to have beIN to see see La Liga. But the bigger question, G, is
La Liga's on ESPN now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think you actually had it backwards. The French league is on beIN and La Liga is on ESPN.
Oh, well then. But the bigger question is Kylian Mbappe one of those players who is big enough that the attention and the coverage is going to follow him no matter where he plays, provided that, it's someplace accessible? I'm not going to say like, oh, if you took $3 billion to go over to China, we'd still be able to pay attention to him. But certainly, as long as he's still plying his trade in Europe, he's going to be able to get the endorsement deals. He's going to be able to get the attention. And as long as he's playing for PSG and their sovereign wealth fund, he's not going to be lacking for commercial revenue.
Yeah, and two things, that have been brought up so far, and I agree with Sid and even Sean so far. But Rob put in there about the 2025, two of your top players of the world, their contracts are done. I think PSG is banking on these next 3 years to win everything. They're going to put all their money in, and wherever the kind of cards fall after 2025, they're going to, I don't say get rid of them, but by that time, Mbappe is going to be 25 years old. He's going to look for a bigger club, and that's when he will leave, after this next kind of contract is up. Real Madrid, we'll see what happens with Barcelona right now. And I know Real Madrid's been, knocking down the door, and they've had conversations. He's been down there in Madrid, but watch out for Barcelona next couple of years. They're building up something real quick this season. At the end of the season, I think they have the best overall points in La Liga. And you talk about the goals and 39 goals total. Yeah, the French league is very, very soft. If you went somewhere else, even like in Serie A and in the Italian league, they're going to knock him around. But no matter where he goes, the money will follow him. And yeah, 38 goals, shoot. Who was it? Mitrovic in the Championship League. He's got 43 goals. Put him into the Premier League, he might have 5. All right, so get him out of that league and let's see truly what his stats are. Yes, he has such a great potential to be one of the best. He's got to get out of France. But right now, being such a young guy, he's comfortable at home. He's making his money right now. PSG is going to throw all the cards in and say, hey, we have until 2025 to win everything. After that, you got to do what you got to do. So I can see a lot of things of, yeah, it'd be kind of cool for him to leave right now, but is it the right time? Time will tell.
Gentlemen, it's interesting though. Presumably, Karim Benzema responded to Kylian Mbappe's news with one of the better Instagram posts that I've seen since Joel Embiid posted the picture saying, bidding a fond farewell to Ben Simmons. It was a picture of Tupac, presumably with the guy who betrayed him standing and killed him eventually, standing right behind him, kind of hinting at maybe the idea that Kylian Mbappe stabbed him in the back, or he had some idea that Kylian was going to come there and only to turn his back on him. I'm sure it's just in jest. And it's a great response, but it does beg the question, Stead, Sean, and G, where does Real Madrid go now? We know that they have a team that just made it to the Champions League final, but Carlo Ancelotti, let's be honest, is hauling that team over the line, holding it together with spit, gum, some duct tape, and probably a lollipop. Like, he has MacGyvered this season like nobody else has. They're all going to come back. There's a World Cup in the middle of the year. Can you count on Karim Benzema having the sort of season that he had this year? Can you count on Luka Modric as they all get a year older? Where are they going to go? We know that they have some good young talent in Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo, but they were really looking for somebody to come in and lead that line and take the mantle from Karim Benzema and lighten some of that scoring load. What's next for Real Madrid? Where do you think they turn instead?
That's a very good question. Because they're 0 for 2. And I think that's shocking. I can't recall a time where Real Madrid was 0 for 2. So we'll see what they do about that. But it's they have enough there though that they can at least hang on for one more season. They can. Will they win a league? No. Will they win a trophy? Maybe not. But it's not always the end of the world for a team of their stature, especially when they can reload the way they can. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's some transaction out there that happens in August that we had no idea was coming. We may start getting wind of it probably in July, but I could see something like that occurring because Real Madrid is going to do something. They're not going to be outshined by City and PSG. They're going to do something. And what that is, I really don't know because my mind is completely losing it. But can they trust Benzema to have another season? I'm going to say, yeah, I think they can. I think they can. He's just not slowing down. And even with that World Cup looming, France has so much there that they don't need to overdo him either. I mean, France is the deepest team in the world. So something's going to happen, but I also think that they can rely on Benzema for one more year. Absolutely.
Sean, any chance you think that Real goes knocking at the other end of North London and picks up a guy by the name of Harry Kane?
Always a possibility, although I think Harry seems to be quite happy under the stewardship of Mr. Conte. I think Liverpool fans probably have more of a worry than Spurs fans because Salah still hasn't signed his new contract, has he, with Liverpool, although he stated he wants to stay there for life. But it wouldn't surprise me now if they come back with another counter offer. So it will be interesting to see if Mr. Salah really wants to stay in Scousland or whether the money talks. What we haven't spoken about is that all of this cash is just getting a little bit absurd, really, isn't it? What are they talking about? £1 million a week for Mbappe?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you always think, where is this going to end?
Look, you saw what that contract. We saw what that type of contract did to Barcelona by paying Messi 160 million euros a year. That severely crippled that team.
Well, it's crippled Barcelona. I'm still not quite sure how that. You know, it just makes a complete mockery of FFP. To be honest, I mean,
that contract was absolutely absurd. Because Messi's got so many lovers. No one looked at that contract and said, "Oh, wait a second, 160 million a year to play football? Okay, something's not right here."
I mean, to put this in context, but I was speaking to my man in St. John, from my St. Johnstone friend today. They've got a budget of 5 million. 5 million a year
for the whole season.
For the whole season. Yeah.
That would
so
pay...
Mbappe's going to earn more in a month and a half than their entire budget for the whole season. Yeah. And it's crazy. Yeah.
But we already knew FFP was a complete and total joke until they go in and they actually make it do what it is designed to do and hold the clubs accountable for playing within their budgetary restraints like they're supposed to, with some actual punishment, and they go through and actually take a look at this. You know, we've seen Barcelona fall victim to, as Stead said, the money being spent on Lionel Messi and how that hamstrung them. We've got, you know, Leeds and Burnley looking at filing against Everton, who have claimed loss, COVID-related losses of more than double any other Premier League team at over 160 million pounds for one season as a result of COVID, but they're able to get away with it. We don't know where Real Madrid is even getting the money to sign these contracts. I've said many times on this show that, the finances of the teams in Spain, especially Real Madrid and Barcelona, are usually murky at best. And was it not for the issues that Barcelona had in COVID, I don't think that we would have ever known the full extent. But still, they're talking about having enough money to make runs at players like Mbappe, they like Erling Haaland. Where are they getting this money all of a sudden to make these financial transactions? Where are they going to get this money? They had to ask Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to take a pay cut, but all of a sudden they have all of this money to be able to pay, presumably to pay Mbappe whatever he wants, or take a run at whatever player they want to be.
Lewandowski,
yeah. So
that was my person. I was going to say is look in the German league. He's unhappy over there. He said he's not going to sign a contract, when it's over and everything. And they're looking at Real Madrid looking for a forward. He's looking to get out. What a perfect kind of marriage. He wants the Champions League. He's won everything 20 times over in Germany. He's won a
Champions League. He won the COVID Champions League.
Yeah, you're right. But he's looking for more. He's looking to have his name really solidified in concrete at that top 10 of all time. And he can do it. But he's got to get out of Germany.
I think he may feel as though his time at Bayern has run out. But when you're looking at Robert Lewandowski going to Real Madrid, presumably to replace Karim Benzema, you're trading old for old, right? It's like for like. I don't see where you couldn't put them on the field at the same time. And so it would have to be one or the other. And they're pretty much the same age. I'm sure Rob will chime in a little bit later. Part of me thinks that Robert Lewandowski may be a year or two older, which again makes even less sense if you're planning for the future with that one. But again, that's a name to watch out for. And while I may not think that's the best move for Real Madrid, we know one thing, and that is Real Madrid is not listening to this show, and they really don't care what I have to say about this. So let's go back to the continent, gentlemen, and talk about your beloved Gunners. If I told you, Stead and Sean and G, at the beginning of the season that y'all would finish 5th and be comfortably in the Europa League, you would have seen some solid development. You would have shed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, but you would have seen solid development out of players like Emile Smith-Rowe and Bukayo Saka, who has emerged as probably one of the most talented young English wingers in the league. Arteta would really, you feel, get his feet under him as Arsenal manager, and things would look good for the future. I'm sure you would have taken it. But to be so close to the Champions League and a top 4 finish and control your own destiny, to only have it slip away, does it hurt, or is it just indicative of what you already knew and that there's work to be done? What do you think, Stead?
I think it's indicative. I do think that there were large stretches of the season where Arsenal was punching above their weight, and it's okay to admit that. When you were really close, I can't say from any Arsenal fan I know personally that there was this real confidence that we were going to get Champions League. It was more of a, wow, we have a chance to get Champions League. That seemed to be more of the feeling I got from people who followed the club. Of course, disappointment in losing. I think, again, though, when I talk to people about disappointing points of the season, it's not necessarily the loss to Spurs that kept us out of Champions League. It was the 3 bad losses to 2 teams at the bottom half of the table, and I believe 2 of those were also at home. I think that's where the season kind of stung, but I think it just shows a squad that's still developing and it still needs to mature a little bit. But it was disappointing in the moment, but I'll say, relatively speaking, it didn't take very long to get over the fact you didn't get it and to look at it and go, wow, we are solidly in fifth place. We're less than 10 points off of third after the season was over. So there's some positives to look at there. It's like, wow, you were a couple of bad misses away from qualifying for Champions League. And I think for a squad of Arsenal's level, especially how we started, and I think we should be very happy. I mean, Sean, I think you said it best when you said we're still a couple of transfer windows away from truly being competitive for the top four. And we were competitive this year, but I think in the end, we all don't feel that Arsenal missed out on something that they should have got.
So, Sean, after last season and the disappointment, I remember you saying this is one of the worst. That was one of the worst Arsenal seasons and worst Arsenal teams that you can remember. You're back in Europe. Probably, would you say, in the appropriate competition, getting them a chance to get back this team with Arteta? I know that 2 years ago he had a little bit of a run in Europe, but getting this team back into Europe, they're going to have a full campaign together. You know, they're going to have a full summer. They're going to travel. You know, the stakes are a little less in the Europa League. It seems like a perfectly good way to get back into that European rhythm, to give them a chance to shine. Are you satisfied? Do you think that they are where they belong and that the team is trending upwards?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to say is I think we're a bit unlucky, because if we'd have beaten Brentford, Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Man U, Everton, Man City, Liverpool, Palace, Brighton, Southampton, Spurs, and Newcastle, we'd have won the league. Okay? I mean, that's how close we were, for God's sake. No, in all seriousness, you know, for those that are involved in business and that have been involved in change management, I mean, people forget that we've got a 39-year-old manager in charge who's had to change everything from top to bottom. We obviously had a crook in charge for about a year and a half before the Americans discovered that we had a crook in charge. They're still trying to unravel the Pepe deal of 2 summers ago. Allegedly a crook in charge, I should say, before the show gets sued. So Arteta, if you remember, went from coach to manager. He was given the reins to try and sort things out from top to bottom, and he's had to do a lot in that changing room. And I think so you're asking me, does the future look bright? I think it looks very bright. There's one discernible difference this season, which we haven't had for 7, 8, 9 years, and it's going to take a little while for you guys at Man U to rediscover that as well, is he's brought the fans back into the fold. And Arteta was sort of, there was again, the fan base was a bit split, but there's no doubt if you look at those away games at Leicester, the away games at Villa, I mean, he's even had a chant made after him now, which is great, and that's the first time that's happened since Wenger was in charge. I think the future is looking really good. I think there'll be significant changes again this summer. But we talked about Kylian Mbappe, and then we've been talking about, you know, the various other established strikers. There's very little young talent. Apart from Haaland and Mbappe, I can't really think of any young centre forwards. Quite frankly, you can see exactly where we missed out. We didn't score enough goals. Purely and simply, we didn't score enough goals. I think if you look at our 5 forwards since January, between them, they scored less between them than Song did at Tottenham. And I think if we can fill that void, who with? I'm not sure, although I do like the look of Victor Osimhen from Napoli, and I think we'll be putting a big bid in for him, or the other guy at Benfica, Darwin. And but no, on the whole, I've managed to pull myself up from the depths of despair, because you don't want to be losing the last 3 games, and the first one you don't want to be losing at Tottenham, really. But there we go. I actually had to endure watching the game with 3 other Spurs fans. Not one of the greatest nights of my life, it has to be said. But no, I think you're asking, is it good to be back in Europe? Great to be back in Europe. We'll have the chance to give some of the youngsters a bit of European experience. Sambi, hopefully we'll get a good run out. We'll see the emergence of Charlie Patino next season. He'll get more games, and he's a really exciting player. And there's a couple of young guys who are also coming through, who I'm sure might be added to the squad. There's a young kid called Hutchinson, whose Christian name I can't pronounce. but he's a sort of again a Saka type player. He's a year younger than 2 years younger than Saka. So yeah, the club's in good hands. We're moving forward, and we're relying on the youth. I don't know about you, Stead. I am a bit worried about our goalkeeping position. That's the only one that Mr. Ramsdale looked like a world beater in the first 10 games of the season, and his stats show that he's in the bottom 10% of goalies in the Premier League by the end of the season. So hopefully because I think Mr. Leno will be going, won't he, in the summer?
Oh, for sure, Mr. Leonard's going to be gone because Matt Turner will be joining.
Oh yes, he's turned. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Will be joining.
Is he the first team goalie for the States at the moment? Is he
I think it goes back and forth in between him and Zach Steffens. Turner's been injured so far this season, so it's definitely kind of set him back a little bit. Rob said he's just getting back. I think the biggest issue, the one thing that I do know is I can't imagine that Matt Turner would take a deal to go to Arsenal to be their number 3 keeper, to back up the backup. So if Ramsdale is the number 1, then you got to imagine Leno's gone. I think Matt Turner is good enough to give Aaron Ramsdale a run for his money to keep him on his toes.
Okay, good.
And he's another guy, when you give him consistently good playing time like he's gotten, he'll only improve. He's a good shot stopper. He's going to need to work a little bit on his feet, but he's got the typical traits that you expect from an American goalkeeper. And if there's one thing that history has taught us, Sean, is that the U.S. exports pretty decent keepers to the Premier League. I think at one point in time in the aughts, wasn't it like 6 out of 20 teams in the Premier League had an American keeper?
And 3 were starting. I mean, don't forget, we had old Baldy was starting for Villa when you had, and then you had Howard starting for Everton, but I believe Brad Friedel was getting starts for Spurs around that same time too.
Brad Friedel was getting starts, and even if it wasn't for Spurs, he was starting wherever he was. And don't forget, Marcus Hahnemann was starting for Reading. Right. So there was a point in time where we actually had more goalkeepers in the Premier League, starting for teams in the Premier League, than we actually had spots on the U.S. men's national team roster for them.
Absolutely.
So
and Friedel started for Blackburn as well, and I believe I mean basically every team he was going at, he was being picked up to start. And Rooney even said there was a time where he was considered to be the best goalie in the Premier League and one of the best goalies in the world. So yes, we do have strong history of exporting strong goalkeeping talent. Absolutely.
So that'll be good. So before we move on to our good friend Cam and get the haps from the land of enchantment, I know, Sean, it's been a while. I know, I can see the excitement in your eyes to talk to Cam. I'll give you the last word on the Gunners and their season, G.
Like you said, if you told me all those factors in the beginning of the year, we'll end up, 5th. We'll improve. We will have a young squad, and they'll only get better. I would take that. Based off of previous years and everything, it just seems like we're in the right direction, and it's all we could ask for. And I even was telling Elizabeth yesterday, I go, you're coming in at kind of the wrong time. About 2 years ago into this whole Arsenal history, I go, when I was coming in, we're at their height, and also our very infamous, manager left, and we went on a huge drop, and we're kind of rebuilding right now. I go, I'm glad that you're kind of around the seeing this. So it's really cool to see this rebuild. And yes, if you said, hey, we're going to end up 5th, we're going to be in Europe, I would say yes. Let's take that. And the greatest thing about our young squad, and I actually watched a documentary with Man U's new coach, and he said, in order to win the big games, you have to lose the big games. And we lost a couple of big games this season, even though it's the Premier League, something like against Tottenham. that's our rival. If we beat them, boom, we're in fourth place, we secure. So for us to lose these big games will only help us in the future. So again, the future is bright. I need to get my sunglasses on here pretty soon and just kind of sit back and relax. So I'm looking forward to next year. We got 74 and a half days, because right now we're still at 75 in the States here. So yeah, man, I can't really wait for the offseason. I really can't wait for the window to see who we pick up. But yeah, if we can keep sign it forward, we're kind of set for 3-4 for next year, somewhere around there. So a lot of things are on the table, obviously, with every single squad right now, but it's good to see that we're in the right direction finally.
I would really love to see us to win a Europa League. Just get some sort of success in Europe, because Arsenal has not had a good record in Europe at all. And in fact, they've only won, I believe, the Cup Winners' Cup, which they haven't played since 1999. So I would love that. I'm kind of hoping for that, just because that's one area where we just have not been very successful over the decades.
Our record's good, Stad. We've done a semi-final and a final in the Europa, and then Olympiacos sort of beat us in the quarter. So we got a good record.
We got a good record there. But we got to get a trophy. We got to get some silverware out of Europe. We do. Yeah.
All right, so let's bring on our good friend Celtic Cam and turn our attention to the Haps in the land of enchantment. Ooh, and he's even wearing blue today.
Is that the Eintracht Frankfurt top?
So it's Scotland. Oof, my Eintracht Frankfurt top hasn't arrived yet.
Okay.
Okay, so Cam, let's start with the game on Wednesday that Sean just mentioned, the Europa League final. It goes to penalties. Eintracht Frankfurt win. Rangers took the lead. I thought for large stretches of the game, Rangers were hanging on by the skin of their teeth. But they're able to capitalize on a Frankfurt mistake. It was a hot day. You saw errors from both sides. They get the goal. They're unable to hold on. Frankfurt gets the equalizer. They play out through extra time. Both teams, the later it went on, I felt like Rangers had an advantage at certain points in time, but they're not able to capitalize. It goes to penalties. A really well-taken penalty shootout, but it turns out that Mr. Ramsey is the one that misses the deciding penalty, even though he was third up. He misses his penalty. That's the only miss of them. Eintracht Frankfurt and their fans run out of Seville as winners. Rangers take one on the chin in their second European final of the 21st century and go on. And then they had to recover quickly, because Saturday they had the Scottish Cup final against Hearts. They got off to a great start again against Hearts. I felt like they battered Hearts throughout most of the game. They were clearly the better team. Hearts was trying. They were able to get it into extra time. Rangers knocks in 3 wins. So they do. Giovanni von Bronckhorst escapes with a trophy. The season is over in Scotland. And the spoils have kind of been split. Rangers take the Scottish Cup. Celtic take the league. They will both be in the group stages of the Champions League next year. So let's start with, we'll talk a little bit more about this with Rob when he comes on in a little bit, get his perspective. But I do want to start by getting your perspective on Rangers and their week.
Yeah, no, I think it was a really good Europa League final personally. I thought it really ebbed and flowed. Each team kind of went through these periods where they had advantage. I think they both played fantastic. As you mentioned, Rangers had some opportunities that really should have finished that game out, in extra time. I think it was Ryan Kent hit one off the post. Right, that would have been done deal right there, and that should have gone in. But that opportunity, I think, is going to be something they're going to be kicking themselves for a while. But overall, I think it really did go back and forth. I think both teams played really fantastically. Bassi was, I think he was really strong in the back. I think Goldson was really showing himself as a leader throughout that game. No, it was a really, really impressive final. It was much more skill and quality than I think I was expecting to see from both teams. But no, it was a fantastic game, and unfortunately, no one likes when it goes to penalties. I don't think anyone is really satisfied with that, but Aaron Ramsey just unfortunately couldn't beat Trapp. And it's a shame to see someone who cost the club £2 million to bring in on loan and is getting 40,000, a week to kind of fall to something like that. So it is very unfortunate for him, and I do feel for him a little bit because I know he's going to be getting shtick from all Rangers fans, Eintracht fans, Celtic fans, of course, as well. But overall, I think it was a really fantastic game, and I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it.
Did you? That's a surprise, Cam.
Well,
Oh, no.
Well, Sean, he did say that he was going to be magnanimous and he was rooting for the Scottish team over the German team because he felt like that extra money would be beneficial to all the Scottish teams in Europe, and that, anything that helped lift the UEFA coefficient of Scotland was beneficial. So in that way, he was kind of like, I'm going to cheer for my enemy, even in this case, because if they win, it's beneficial. It helps me, right? So,
well, don't get me wrong. I was hoping Eintracht Frankfurt would win, but if Rangers did win, there was, that kind of, that's how I was going to accept it,
All right. So I'm sure that the Eintracht Frankfurt jersey is in the mail.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah. On the other end of the table, and Sean alluded to this a little bit earlier, we had the second leg of the Scottish Premiership playoff. We lamented the fact that the great dream of Arbroath fell so unceremoniously in penalties to Inverness County Thistle, but it was St. Johnstone's who will keep their Premier League dreams alive for another season. They ran out 4-0 victors, 6-2 on aggregate against Cali Thistle to maintain their status at the Premier League. Sean, I know that you have, through your friend, a little bit more invested in this game. But Sean, Cam, I'll start with you. What does this mean for St. Johnstone's? I know they struggled this year. At points in time, we thought they might be a little bit better than they were, but they kind of tailed off. But they get another crack at it next year.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're going to have to do a lot to improve. The past couple of years, they haven't been in great form. They're obviously not a team, I think, that in the future, in the near future, are going to be, top 3, top 4, top 5 team. But I think they have the ability to turn it around and possibly, move into that middle of the table. I think where they really need to capitalize. Honestly, one of the things in the Scottish game that works really well is loans. Loans from down south works really well. It's a cheap way, an efficient way for smaller clubs that maybe don't have the same bank account as Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs to bring in some talent and strengthen their team. So I think whoever's going to be put in charge of St. Johnstone next season really needs to take that into account. And I think that will really, really help them, at least get them out at the bottom of the table, because they've been down there now for a few seasons, not necessarily in relegation, but near the bottom of the table. And I think they need to do something different, bring in some youth, I think, from down south on loan, and try to pull themselves up that way, because I just don't think they have the money at this point in time, with how often they've been at the bottom of the table, to bring quality permanent signings. So they did
win both cups 2 years ago, Cam.
That's true. That's true. I do forget that they did win the Scottish Cup. That's true. That's a very, very good point, Sean. Thank you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, looking at where they are on the table consistently, they started off the year really well. I remember early in the season when we were talking the podcast, I had high hopes for them because of the cup and how they started the season off. And unfortunately from there, kind of like Aberdeen, it's just been a downhill slide. So, I think if I was to make a recommendation, I think they really should look at some quality loans from down south, even if it's, guys from the Championship or things like that. That quality still transfers over into the Scottish game for sure.
Sean, I know you, like you've talked about, you have a friend, you have a little bit more of an interest in St. Johnson's than a lot of average fans might. What does the securing of another year of Premiership football mean for a team like St. Johnson's? We know they have a $5 million annual budget, which is probably like a week's worth of Celtic's budget, and would get you 3 hours of Kylian Mbappe's time given his current status. But what does it mean to be able to be there, and will they be able to secure their to improve, move up the table, so that maybe next year they don't find themselves in this same position?
Yeah, I know we don't. So, funny enough, I asked exactly the same question to my friend about lunchtime today, and effectively, if they had gone down, they would have dropped about £1 million on the budget that I mentioned earlier, and that has a significant impact, obviously, on playing staff, etc., etc. I won't mention what word he used when describing the current St Johnstone chairman, but it sort of started with a C and ended with a T and a few letters in between. And apparently until he goes, the club is not necessarily moving in the right direction. 2 years ago, when they won both cups, Callum Davison was hailed as, the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know if you saw him on the sidelines. Did they show the game over there? But he just looked dishevelled. I mean, he might as well have been selling the Big Issue, with a bottle of Thunderbird in his hand. He almost looked like a broken man. So in answer to your question, I think life would have been very, very, very tough for them had they gone down. And I was saying, how quickly do you think you might come back up? I didn't realise there's parachute payments in Scotland, Cam. Apparently there would have been a parachute payment for one season for them. But of course, you've got to look in the Championship, and it's not dissimilar to down in England. There are some big teams down there. Partick Thistle are down there. Obviously, Inverness are down there, teams that the only one that seems to go down and jump back up is Kilmarnock, who, as you say, are sort of, more established. But it's very difficult. It's always a microcosm of other leagues in Europe, with Madrid and Barcelona dominating financially. Rangers and Celtic, what was it? Was it worth 30 million to Rangers to get to the Europa League final? Celtic will get 100 mil for going in the Champions League. So I've just mentioned what St Johnson's budget is. It's a million miles apart. Rangers and Celtic can go out and buy very good players. The rest of them. So you're probably right, Cam, mentioning about sort of loans or whatever. But quite frankly, I do feel for my friend Alistair, because how many players really want to go and live in Perth?
Yeah,
it's not the greatest weather in the world. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
It's also
it's a shame as well, because they do have some quality players like Xander Clark, absolutely fantastic goalkeeper, absolutely fantastic. Callum Hendry's a good player.
Yeah. Sean Rooney's
he's
done right.
They have some really good players, and it's a shame because it's like they have this handful of fantastic players and they just can't. I don't know. It's really odd. It's a shame. It is really a shame.
Yeah. And of course, Dundee are going down as well. So there's another big team. Whatever happened? Sorry, I'm not changing the subject, but whatever happened to? Didn't one of the lottery winners? He won over 100 million. Was a mad Partick Thistle fan, wasn't he? Do you remember who I'm talking about? And he ploughed a load of money into Thistle, and very sadly, he died last year. And so I thought Thistle actually had quite a lot of cash behind them, but it doesn't seem to have helped them very much. Yeah, you can Google it. I can't remember what his name is, Colin someone. But this is about 4 years ago. He won, I'm sure it was over 100 million. And I think he managed to get himself on the Thistle board.
Oh, this Colin Weir. I do vaguely remember that. Okay, okay.
Yeah. And then you sort of think he ploughed a lot of his cash, well, some of his cash into Thistle, and you thought, where's the money gone?
Right. Yeah. Well, mismanagement of Scottish clubs is not unknown.
yeah, that's true. And just a very small story. I heard a fantastic story over here. You know how Rangers fans were desperate to get to Seville?
Yeah.
I had a phone in, and apparently 2 Rangers fans phoned up a hot air balloon company in the UK and asked how much it would cost. One hair blue to get to Seville. Fantastic. There we go. So hats off to those Rangers fans who did manage to make it from the UK.
That's impressive. I'm very impressed by that.
There was no patio furniture in Seville that was safe after that match.
No. But they shut the whole place down. Apparently, you couldn't.
Yeah, I would have done the same. Before we get on, and we're going to bring on Rob in a little bit to talk about it, to give us the German perspective, Cam. Celtic, your team, doing a bit of business early and announcing the permanent signing on about £6.5 million pound deal for Jota, who was one of their key loanees, and so getting the business done early. We hope that an announcement is imminent about a permanent deal for Cameron Carter-Vickers, who got a call up to the U.S. men's national team back there. What does clearly the influx of money from the Champions League gave Celtic the ability to get some of this done early. What does announcing these signings, even before the season's fully over, mean for the team, the fans, and getting this business done, getting a key player signed to a permanent deal, mean for the team moving forward as they go into this transfer window?
Yeah, I think what I would say is this is progress compared to past seasons. I remember when Angie took over, a lot of people were worried that maybe the board wasn't necessarily going to back him, with money in an easy fashion. But seeing that Jota is so close to signing, Celtic are ready to put pen to paper, verbal agreements in place. We actually had today, news came out that Daisen Maeda the loan deal has now turned into a permanent deal at Celtic. Details still to be released of how long, but I think to buy him, it was going to be about 1.5 or 1.7 million, which is an absolute steal. So it's really great to see that the board is actually backing Angie and willing to put that money forward. Because as we've talked about this through other seasons, it comes down to the last 24 hours and we're scrambling to get someone, and we essentially pick who we can sort of situation. So it's absolutely fantastic to see that our priorities in terms of who we want to sign, the guys that we have on the team, this early on. So I'm very impressed. I think this is progress from the board. I think Angie has the board's trust, which is really important, and the board, that believes in Angie. So, once CCV signs and Jota puts that pen to paper, if that was all we did, I know it's not going to be, but if that was, I'd be very, very impressed.
All right. Thanks a lot, my man. And we're going to hang on and bring on Rob and see how he feels about our good friend Byron Rob, and see how he feels about the Europa League final. So Cam gave us the Scottish perspective. Welcome, Rob. Hope you're feeling better. I know that you were a little under the weather yesterday.
I was. I'm feeling better though. Thank you.
All right. So Cam gave us the perspective from the Scottish fans. You, as our German correspondent, what did you think of that game?
Oh, I was a nervous wreck because you saw these Frankfurt fans who came over. If you saw the stadium, it was full of white. Everybody was repping Frankfurt stuff. And then, I thought that Frankfurt needed to get a goal early, at least in the first half. And then when it didn't, I got really nervous. And then you saw Rangers score first. And we're like, oh, no, here we go. This is not good, right? Like, somebody went to church the night before. And then when Borja scored, I was like, okay, Frankfurt are going to do something. They're going to win this here. They got the momentum going. And then Rangers just held on. Rangers did not let go. And when it went to pens, I was like, you know what? Penalties are a great equalizer. I've always said it. Bad teams can win in penalties. And then it got close. And then when you saw Aaron Ramsey, I don't know what he did. It just was an awful penalty take. I was like, I was ecstatic, right? Because I'm like, okay, Frankfurt, who have represented the Bundesliga well, who are not one of those, those teams that avoid the 50+1, who embrace the 50+1. actually came out deserving winners here. I think the better team have won here, even though they didn't show it in the match itself. But I think overall in the competition, they're one of the better teams, and so they're deserved champions. And now the Bundesliga has five teams going into the Champions League. They are now at pot 1, I believe, along with Bayern. So that's an amazing statistic there, and a major representation of Bundesliga. Everybody wants to talk about the Bundesliga as a farmers team. And apparently some people want to say that people need to leave the league to prove themselves. Like, no, I'm sorry. The Bundesliga is a wonderful league, as wonderful representation. And for a while, the league wasn't doing well in the Europa League. Champions League is a different story. But then, the Europa League, they would just stink it up the joint. But this year was different. It was special to see. And the journey that the Frankfurt fans went on all over the globe, all over Europe, I should say, was wonderful to watch. I hope there's a documentary out there. They partied hard and celebrated. It was beautiful. Rangers, tough. They made it hard. I didn't think they would make it that hard, but they made it tough. And honestly, I didn't think they belonged here because they obviously beat Leipzig, but I don't think they're better than Leipzig at all. And here they are. So, but I'm the Catholic in me is happy. Rangers are done. We don't have to hear about them again for a bit. So thank goodness, because winning. It's one thing to win the Scottish Premiership. It's another thing to win the international trophy. And if Rangers won international trophy, they basically have announced to the world that Rangers are back, but they're not back yet. Thank goodness.
All right, Cam, I know you had a question for Rob, so go for it.
Yeah, Rob. So, you kind of mentioned it, that the track that Frankfurt took, absolutely, I think, fantastic. I don't know much about it's Oliver Glasner, right? The coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what his background. He's a name for me that kind of came out of nowhere, and I'm now expecting to see possibly him move to a bigger team or things like that. I wasn't sure what your perspective on Glasner and maybe his future with Frankfurt was.
So it's funny with Oliver Glasner. He managed Wolfsburg last season, took Wolfsburg to the Champions League, and then I don't remember exactly what happened. I think he left. Then he signed with Frankfurt. Now he took Wolfsburg to the Champions League. We made a qualify for Champions League. Then Wolfsburg hired Mark van Bommel. That faded after like eight matches, maybe 6 or maybe 8 if you count the preseason. And so then that team fell apart. And Oliver Glasner, came to Frankfurt. It was like signed a 3-year deal, his first year deal, and now he has an international trophy. So, it's almost like he was expected to keep coaching Wolfsburg. I don't know what happened there. Like they parted ways somehow mutually. Looks like it. And now he's a proven manager. Now he took a team that is on the cusp of mid-table, took them to the Champions League. Now took another team that's sort of mid-table and won a trophy. This is amazing. Oliver Glasner is a legitimate manager. He has solidified his credentials over the last 2 seasons. I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he stays. He's 47 years old. He probably wants to coach Champions League after not coaching it with Wolfsburg. So I think he stays another season. If he does well there, then we could talk about potentially him going somewhere. But no, I think he stays. I think they're gonna want him there. He's a hero, man. Like he's like the way Niko Kovac was celebrated when he beat Bayern in the DFL Pokal with Frankfurt. Like it's the same way with Glasner. Glasner is gonna be, they're gonna make a statue of him somewhere. They're gonna hoist him on his shoulders, and they're excited for Champions League with him. So it's gonna be a fun ride for them. It's gonna be interesting to see how they do, because now this squad is tested. This squad has played 3 competitions, and they could do it again. It's not like a fluke, like a Freiburg, who are now gonna have to add another different competitions to their calendar. they can do it. They can do some damage here. And they're pot one too, so it's good for them.
All right. Well, Cam, thanks a lot for joining us, giving us the chat and catching up with us today. We'll have you back a little bit later on as things continue to develop in Scotland.
Can I ask Cam one last question before he leaves?
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's strong rumours that we might sign a kid called Aaron Hickey. Can you tell me a little bit more about Aaron?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Aaron Hickey's he's a youth player. I think he's made a couple of appearances, first team if I remember correctly, but he's a quality player. He's really good. I remember seeing him a couple first team games, he moved to that's
Bologna.
right. He moved to Bologna. That's right.
Yeah.
That's what happened with him. He got traded over there. Yeah, he made a couple first team appearances. That was another youth signing that people were, kind of questioning. He's apparently made a big impact over there, though. He's been a really good player for them. As I say, unfortunately, he only got a couple runs with us. I really liked him. I thought he was a solid player. He's a pretty big kid. He's got some height to him. So, he's pretty decently strong, got some height to him. He's still pretty young. He's got to be probably like 18, 19, 20, something like that.
22 now, I think he is.
22. Yeah. Okay. I thought he was younger. But yeah, no, he was a quality player when we had him. I think, I don't know how much, his value is or what you guys are considering.
17 million, apparently. We're going to have a bid accepted for 17 million. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think you got to say, if you can get him on a long-term contract, I think he could be a really, really solid player. As I say, I loved watching him play. I think he's very strategic minded.
I noticed he was in the Scottish squad that you put up on the group chat.
Yeah. He's I think he was in there last year. I think he played some time last year. Yeah, sub off the bench sort of thing, but definitely a quality player. I think that's a really, really good pickup. Sadly lost him.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Cam, and we'll catch up with you later, especially as we get into the summer when Scotland plays in their long postponed World Cup playoff. So go Scotland.
Sounds good. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Rob, let's wrap up the the Bundesliga or the German season as such as it is. Leipzig made really super hard work of it, but they did eventually win the DFB Pokal this weekend.
Yeah. For those who are watching the video, isn't that a happy time? If you are one of those purists who love, the 50+1 rule, it's almost the same feeling like when City won a Premiership title. How we found that oil bunny has arrived, or if you even go back further, when Chelsea won a Premier League title after Roman bought the club, all of our money got legitimized. Leipzig, after 12 seasons of existence, finally have a trophy. And I say finally very sarcastically, for a club that has, vilified the 50+1 rule and do it in name only, but has charged thousands of dollars for membership, has limited the membership to only Red Bull employees, has changed it as they moved up the pyramid. It's an awful day for football, for football, I should say, in Germany. Everybody wanted Freiburg to win just because, they're like the plucky underdog that had no business being there. Just like they had no business being in Champions League,
They should have won that game, though.
I know they should have won that game.
They had 4 chances to put that game away.
I know, and you know what it is too, man. So I've been saying it all season long. It's Christopher Nkunku, the man who is probably not going to go for 100 million to somewhere in the Premier League, but he should, especially after Jack Grealish went over for 100 mil. Christopher Nkunku is just a magician. He's a wonderful player, just puts it all out on the pitch, and without him, this Leipzig team is nothing. He's done so much work for that club. I mean, it's going to be a good thing when he goes because for a couple reasons. Number one, Leipzig will lose a top player. Number two, it says that, you know, a top player for the Bundesliga will also make good money. But man, they just needed a stroke of magic from him, you know, and a little bit of luck, and that was it. And then the Leipzig quality is just so good up and down that man, they took the penalties, and then, you know, Freiburg is, like I said, it's this plucky team that like doesn't get into penalty shootout like this, you know. They don't know what it's like to be in these big games.
Yeah.
And here they are in the one of the best stadiums in the world, and playing not the underdog only in popularity, but not in talent in Leipzig, and they blew it, man. I feel for Freiburg, but you know what? I think they will do decent in the Europa League. I'm not expecting a Freiburg type of run. I'm maybe expecting around 16.
If they get a good group, though, if they get in a good group and they can potentially win a group, because that it was a very plucky side. I mean, Rob, you've done an admirable job educating us on the Bundesliga, especially outside of the Borussia, Bayern, and Schalke. So I was very interested. The game was on, and I was in a position in my day where I could actually enjoy the game, and I did, and I was very happy I watched it. But I felt like when they had the chance to win at the end of regulation, and the shot went wide, and then when they had the chance to go up 2-1 in extra time, and the shot went over the goal. I may have that backwards or something. And I just said, the closer this gets to 120 minutes, they're not going to win the game. And you saw, I had not seen Nkunku play a full match before. I've only seen highlights. And to see Leipzig down to 10 men, his mere presence made it seem like it was still 11 on 11. Just him being on the field. He took two players with him every time. And the fact that he was able to hold up play, keep the ball at times, and even create a few chances for Musiala. I believe that's the thing. I'm probably saying it wrong, but that was very, very surprising to see from a player who was basically, he couldn't shine in the manner he was used to, but to see how he was able to affect the game that way from an attacking position when you're head of a 10-man squad is beyond remarkable. And I felt really, really gutted though for Freiburg. You could even see the quality of the jersey. Look at the way the names are printed on the back. Freiburg's jerseys look like they are a championship level squad and then Leipzig's got these like high powered fancy jerseys you can find in any sort of sporting goods store throughout the world. So that was disappointing. And I'm hoping that this isn't a one-time thing for a club like Freiburg, and they can hang around and make some noise again another year. I mean, that would be probably the best way I'd like to look at it. But I will say, Rob, that game alone is going to bring you back to the Bundesliga next year. So I'll be able to join you on some Bundesliga reports. I promise.
I'm glad, and also just to add to the championship style side of the numbers in the shirts. Their sponsor is a grocery store chain.
I know what that was.
It might as well be like the local softball league, I mean, let me tell you, I know about that grocery store chain. If whenever I go to Germany, I'm looking for them. It works, So no, I'm happy for them. I think they're a good squad. Losing Nico Schlotterbeck is going to hurt, but it's going to definitely help the coffers. Hopefully to retool and find a couple more players and do better. But this is a fun run. This is lovely for them, and it's nice to see big, like passionate fan bases get a match that matters to them. It's not often like you see, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of like in the Premiership, like let's say Burnley gets like a match at Wembley or something, or an FA Cup or something, like, something that like a club that doesn't get to taste this level, this intensity, and they got a taste of it. And you know what? Hopefully, the cash in made out of the Pokal, reaching the finals, the Schlotterbeck money. Hope they can spend it well, and then come back stronger, come back as good, and then we'll see them again. Because that's what we want. We want these clubs to make money, invest it properly, and stay there, not to falter, not to, be reckless with it, to stabilize and present a challenge to the giants of the Bundesliga. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that's more of the way they're able to go. Because if you think about the two recent FA Cup, not recent FA Cups, we take Birmingham City when they beat Arsenal to win the League Cup, and they were able to kind of get that secure trophy. They were relegated that year. Look at Wigan when they beat Manchester City in probably the best FA Cup final I've ever seen. They got relegated that year. And, even Swansea, when they won the League Cup and they were able to kind of get a major trophy, they were relegated a year later. So you hope that a team that's able to get to those games and play at Wembley and that's not a championship level or a Bundesliga level club can actually capitalize off of a showing like that in a tournament that they got really deep in and actually have that build upon that for years to come. So that I hope that's what happens with them. And I hope that's what can happen with other teams that get there. I mean, of course, I'm going to jump back to the Premier League just really quickly because I know we talked about West Ham earlier, but it's similar to that where you saw West Ham was able to qualify for Europa League and then semi in Europa League, but they also didn't semi in Europa League, but finished 15th. They still were a goal away from qualifying for Europa League again. But I think them in the Europa Conference League, I don't think it's a bold prediction to say that they could win it. I don't think that's a very bold prediction because, it's you saw what they could do in Europa League. This is one step below. And as long as you don't have a Spurs-like situation where they're forced to forfeit a game, I mean, why couldn't they run through teams from Lithuania as long as you have to travel that far?
No, you're right. It's those, being in those environments are very different. They're not as sterile as going to some other like big name places, like going to Marseille, going to like Monaco. That's one thing, but going to like Belgrade, going to like somewhere in Serbia, somewhere in
you're going to the team that finished 4th in the Turkish Super League. That's where you're going. You might not be going to Istanbul.
Yeah, exactly. It's the hotels are not nice. Just to pivot back real quick, Freiburg actually have a new sponsor starting next season. It's a company called Kazoo, which is a leading online car retailer. So they have graduated.
Cars, yeah.
They have graduated from a grocery store to a online car dealership, almost like Carvana again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm assuming.
I'm pretty sure Kazoo also sponsors Everton, if I'm not mistaken.
You might be right.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I know I've seen them on a Premier League jersey. I believe it's Everton's.
You're correct. You're correct.
Rob, real quick before we let you go, we had the relegation playoff in the Bundesliga ended today, and Hertha Berlin were able to stave off Hamburg and secure their Bundesliga status for another season. What does it mean for that club, which should be one of the bigger clubs, but much like Schalke we saw last year, really struggled financially and with players and throughout this season.
This is a warning to Hertha. This is a warning shot that you got off scot-free. You're lucky, and if you don't change your ways, it's gonna be worse next season for you. Because Hertha have, they're actually one of those clubs that teeter right on the cusp of 50+1, where an actual investor owns 49.9% of the club. Put in a ton of money to it and just blew it, like up in the air, got nothing out of it. Bought players, sold them for less than what they paid for them, and got zero results out of it. And now they got a little bit of a warning sign that said, "Look, you need to shape up. You need to do something about your squad because if you don't, you're going to end up in the worst position." And Hamburg, who have been suffering and down in the second Bundesliga for about 4 seasons. It will be their 5th next season. They had every chance and every opportunity to be promoted automatically. They blew it throughout the stretch, and they blew it here. They're at home. You're at home. How do you drop 2 goals at home? Like in the crowd behind you, and it was just Hamburg. I know St. Pauli's happy because they didn't like Hamburg. I know St. Pauli's happy because they get their derby back. They get to keep the derby, I should say. But man, Hamburg, had every opportunity to win here, and they did nothing out of it. It's a pathetic display. And you know what, Hamburg, bye Hamburg. See you maybe next season. Maybe. I mean, they're lucky that Schalke got promoted because and Bremen got promoted, who are two of the the kind of like the traditional clubs that are typically in the first Bundesliga. Because next season might be easier for Hamburg, depending. I have no idea I have no idea, but and I think they're a better team than Greuther for definitely. But Hamburg, man, they disappointed me today. I'm not a big fan of what they do, but they disappointed me on a footballing point of view. They should have done better here. And I have nothing else to say. Hertha, you lucked out. Thank goodness. I get to see my friend Phil, who's a big Hertha fan. I get to see him 2 times next season at least. So thank goodness for that. Other than that, Hertha, you're garbage. You deserve to be demoted down, and you didn't. You scathed Scott, luckily.
All right, Rob. Thanks a lot for coming on and joining us and giving us your thoughts. Tell us how you really feel.
And
through with the flame of machete, baby.
And real quick, my Ipswich Town shirt is a hello or homage to lower league expert Mike, who's coming out later. So
all right.
Go Switch.
So we're gonna go ahead and bring on our good friend Larry, the insurance guy, and the Prince of Darkness, who just spelled his name wrong. There's an R in there. British Will. Right now, his name, there it goes. It's a Prince of Darkness. I'm not sure what that
is. Is he not supposed to be a teacher?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It seems only fitting to have you both on to talk about that finish in the Premier League. I must have seen the league table change 50 some odd times. And once again, Stevie Gerrard has a chance to win a trophy, win the league for Liverpool, and he fumbles it away. To the victors go the spoils. Larry, you had to have gone through the ringer with that one on Sunday.
I wish that there was a video camera showing me and my son watching the game. We both started off full kits on, watching it. Halftime, my jersey comes off. I got to try to change it. The game ends. My son has no shirt on at all. It was a complete 180 of 360 of emotions during that game. Going into it, you're always nervous going into it, but then you look at the numbers, and we kind of talked about it last week. Like, it shouldn't have even been what it was based on City's whole year, based on 28 wins out of 37 games. Like, it shouldn't have even been what it was. And it was again, I can smile now, but it was something that I'll never forget. It was awesome.
Ilkay Gundogan, who is rumored to be on his way out, turns out to be the savior in getting Pep the only trophy that he's going to get this year. We can talk about whether or not you feel like it's a bit of a disappointment coming out with only the league after we put so much into the Champions League last year. But any chance now after that performance that they go back and they say, you know what, we may have to rethink that one?
It's funny you say that, because I actually saw something a couple of days ago before yesterday saying that he's not going to move. He's going to finish out his contract there. I think if the right offer comes along, because he's still got 1 year left, that they would move him. But I did see something prior that they said that he wasn't going to go anywhere. Again, you don't know what's going to happen. I think now with that, I think he's earned maybe some more, you know what I mean? But again, it's not the money that he's worried about. It's the playing time. And again, with that squad, and who knows how it's going to change next year with Holland coming in, or any other changes throughout the throughout the off season, it's going to come back down to playing time. And if he wants playing time at his age, it's, I don't see how it's going to change much. But I mean, before the kind of tying to that is yesterday, I think that one of the biggest change, I mean, obviously Gudawan coming in, he's not going to get as much credit, but Zinchenko changed the game on that left side once they brought him in for put Stones back in the middle. Zinchenko just seemed like he was on a mission from the beginning. Since he came on once he was on the pitch, it was a completely different game from that side than what we saw. Move Cancelo back over to the right, and it changed it big time. I mean, and whether they were going to score from him or not, he just seemed like he was feeling it.
Well, the quadruple dies. There will be no quadruple. There will be no treble. Well, there could be a cup treble, but with a capital T, with capital T's, the treble, not to be this season.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what league table you were watching, Mike, but the league table I was watching, Liverpool came in second, and then throughout the entire game, they stayed in second. There was never a single point in the entire game that Liverpool got up to first. So realistically,
it was a bit of a poetic license. I'll cop to that.
I understand the poetic license there, but I'm still going to point out the fact that you were wrong. Because there's very little I can say about that, apart from the fact that Liverpool came into the game and they did what they had to do. They won the game, and Manchester City won. It wasn't exactly surprising. That was kind of what most Liverpool fans expected to happen on the day. Yeah, Aston Villa going up 2-0 was happy, nice, maybe makes your heart flutter a little bit. Ooh, will it happen? But the number of times I've seen Manchester City just dig out 3 goals in the 80th minute, it's not exactly a rare occurrence. And, any City fan saying it's just because it was that game. It's the last game of the season. It makes it feel special. I mean, if Liverpool dug out 3 goals in the end of a game, again, that's just Liverpool. That's just City at this point in time. Liverpool has come back from behind in the 80th minute in the last 3 years. 4 or 5 times Manchester City has come back from 2 goals behind in the last 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 times as well. It's not the first time that Manchester City has come back from a deficit when Liverpool had the chance of winning the league. It's the second time it's happened when Manchester City came in front in the final day. And yeah, Liverpool lost out on the treble. But at the start of the season, I said, oh, maybe this season, before even Liverpool had a shaky start to the league, before their even Champions League run, I said, it might be nice to win the 2 domestic cups. Klopp hasn't done that yet. And Klopp went and won the 2 domestic cups. And now he's gone to go on and win the European Cup. So, if they win that, that's nice icing on the cake. But the goal from the start of the season wasn't to win the league again. It wasn't to win the Champions League again. And it wasn't really even to win both the domestic cups. I mean, you saw his goal in domestic cups with the teams he put out. He put out Children again in the League Cup, and the Children won it. And I know that you're going to needle me about them losing the league, but did they really lose the league? They fought back in the league.
I wasn't going to needle you about winning the league. I was going to ask Larry. We talked at the beginning of the season, and we talked about how important it was for Pep to win the Champions League, and how much pressure has been on him. Can you call a season in which you win your 5th Premier League title in 10 years a failure? Or does it even feel like it's not necessarily as successful as it could have been in winning the league, which would have made 19 other teams ecstatic? But is there a sense that this season kind of fell short of expectations because City weren't able to get over the line in the in the Champions League after making it to the finals last year?
I think any real City fan will say yes. Right now, at this moment, we're just ecstatic with the way that it ended yesterday. Whenever the dust settles in the next couple of days, they will look at another year without a Champions League where they were in position and they faltered at the end. That is their ultimate goal. I mean, Pep will always say, all of these managers will always say the right thing, that the Premier League is the hardest league to win it back to back. But we all know that he was brought in for the Champions League. And especially the last 2 years, they were in position. So when the dust settles in the next 48 hours, maybe a little bit longer for some people, this was a year that we would have, as a fan, and I think as anybody in that organization, would have given up the other 3 trophies for that Champions League. So again, I wouldn't say it's a disappointment. I'd say it's I don't know. It's maybe a shade below disappointment on when you look at their overall portfolio of the season.
Well,
can I say one thing real quick?
Go for it.
Will had mentioned something, I could be dead wrong with this, but I think they said this is the first time that City has won after being down 2-0. They've drawn so when just your comment of 4 or 5 times in the last couple of years, that's not accurate. I know that, especially even whenever we talked about under Pep, when we talked about them coming back against West Ham last week, that was a big deal for them. I know that with Liverpool, I can always say until that final whistle, Liverpool always has a chance to draw, to get that last second winner, to fight back. I have not seen that with City. They might get a last second draw, but being down 2-0 in the 72nd minute, that's not accurate by saying that they've done that over and over. So whenever they were down like that, I was shocked that they came back. Just based on the way that they've played the last couple of years. Pep does not adjust as well. I think it was just Aston Villa just got tired, and the new players made big differences.
And they had Callum Chambers in the central defence.
Mm-hmm.
Who played really well throughout. I mean, I thought he had
You're talking to
yesterday,
2
I
guys
think
who've been
he played
scarred by
well.
Callum Chambers one too many times
Yeah.
to say he ever
Yeah.
plays well.
Yeah.
I would like to point out, Will calls me out, and then Larry calls Will out. So that's why I have Larry on the show, is because I know at least we may root for different sides of Manchester, but I know he's got my back. So take that, Will.
Well, I mean, I'm just speaking from experience. I've seen City come back from a 2-goal deficit to win. I don't know if that's a 2-goal deficit to win. Maybe they have never come back from a 2-goal deficit to win, but they've definitely gotten 2 back in the last 80 minutes, in the last
Oh yeah,
minutes.
It's semantics.
It's semantics of it. I mean, but I don't think that anyone's ever really surprised when Manchester City comes back into a game against a team that, let's be honest here, has Callum Chambers in the centre of defence. I think is my more realistic point there.
And we're all used to seeing City score 4 goals in the span of 10 minutes. And, I've gone to walk the dog and come back and it's 2-0 City. So I think that's one thing that we can all say we've seen. And it's quite impressive, because to see, once you see Kevin De Bruyne start really running, you're going, uh-oh, here we go. It's coming.
I think that's more my point there. I think you might be right, Larry. You're probably 100% right. I did not watch the City game. I watched the Liverpool game because I'm a Liverpool fan. And they probably dug out the stats guy who told you that. But
right,
the number of times that you see City score 3 goals in 10 minutes, it's
they just
not
go
surprising.
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
That's what they do.
And I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I think there are 18 teams in England, if not more, that would love to have City and Liverpool's problems right now.
We have problems.
You didn't win the league.
Yeah, we got 91 points though, so I don't really see that as a problem.
Times 2.
Was that? How many was that, Mike? Even in the 50s?
Well, I was only talking about. I was I was looking at this show as we were only going to talk about teams that actually found a measure of success this year. So that precluded Manchester United from being involved in it because, as far as I can tell, they never actually showed up to play.
I don't know. Those Manchester United legends, they really hammered Liverpool 3-1. Oh, it was really impressive to see the 60-year-old score.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure you could have put the legends out and the 60-year-olds would have done a better job than the actual team that was on the pitch for United. So as much grief as you want to give me for United being bad, you know, go for it, because I'm going to give it right back to you. We suck and we know you do. We do.
I'll stop giving you grief, Mike. I'll stop doing
you can give me all the grief you want. Like, what do you want to do? I am not going to fight it. I acknowledge we were really, really bad this year. We lost our last 2 games and we were outscored 5-0. And they were both insipid performances against Brighton and Crystal Palace. And at least if we'd had Eric Cantona on the pitch, there might have been a threat of a kung fu kick to keep things interesting. Otherwise, it was just boring as all get out. In fact, I was out and I was streaming the game at an establishment where I go to watch the game. And at halftime, Sean, I put on the IPL because that was more interesting and I'd rather watch the cricket. And then the second half, when I found out that City were down, I put the Liverpool game on one screen and the City game on the other because I wasn't going to watch that dreck. Let's watch something that matters. So, yeah, we know. We'll talk more about the Champions League final a little bit later on this week. We'll have a separate show to do that, and I want to make sure that we give it its due. But as we go into this, of course, we got to bring this up. You guys now come in. It is the end of a very, very, very long season in which Liverpool has played a lot of games. Some of their major players are coming in various varying states of form. You can say Sadio Mane is probably at the top of his game right now, scoring major league important goals for Liverpool, whereas, Mo Salah a little bit has gone wanting in the second half of the season.
Just crazy the numbers that he has right now, and you can say he's slacked, I guess you can call it, which is incredible.
You look at his numbers in the since January, and they're down. Now I know that Will is showing off his Mo Salah t-shirt, and he is the pharaoh, he is the Egyptian god of Merseyside, but any concerns fitness-wise or form-wise heading into the Champions League final on Saturday, Will?
I mean, sure. But,
Is he not fit? Is he not fit?
No. Thiago might be broken. Virgil van Dijk might be a little bit broken. They all might be just a little bit broken. They've played 62 games, 62 games this season. If you don't include internationals and all that, they're probably a wee bit tired. I'll give them that. But, I'm a Liverpool fan. Unlike City, I don't have these constraints about worries about titles and which trophy you win and how good the season was because of the goal at the start of the season. I don't really have those worries. Liverpool's season has already been fantastic. I've already enjoyed it. I am already excited. And so if Liverpool are in the Champions League final and they lose the Champions League final to Real Madrid, that sucks. But they had a great season, didn't they? I mean, I enjoyed watching it. And I know that all the other Liverpool fans did too. And maybe it has a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth at the end of the season if you don't win. But you
got a bit of history on your side, Will, because I'm pretty certain, can't remember the year, but I was there the last time you beat Real Madrid in Paris. I was actually at the game when Alan Kennedy scored the winner. You won 1-0. So you've got some history there. Yeah.
77.
Sure. What year was that?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember.
I think
When?
it was 77. It was 77 Rome.
Yeah.
Because it was either
No,
77
no,
or
77 was Rome. I think it was, it might have been 81.
81, yeah.
Okay,
84.
there was one thing I was sure of, and that was, Will, you were not around to see that.
No, I was not alive to see that. That was, 17 years before my birth. But,
It was in a different stadium. It was in the Parc des Princes, whereas I think they're playing in the Stade de France this time. But you've got history on your side.
I think that it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a leggy game for both teams, but I think that both teams are going to come out and have a good time. Mo Salah scored his first goal in a while. Sadio Mane got 2 goals. Liverpool's coming in off a high. They did well. That was a tough game to beat Wolves, and they soundly beat Wolves. In the end, for the first 70 odd 80 minutes, it looked as though it was going to be a 1-1 draw and they weren't going to do everything they could to win the league. And then Mo Salah scored a goal, and then Sadio Mane Roberto Firmino.
Sadio had the first one, as I recall.
So Sadio scored the equalizer.
Yeah,
it was a pretty nice equalizer. Then Mo came on and he poked home from 1 yard out, which doesn't sound like much, but if you're a striker, it's a goal. A goal is a goal is a goal. And
when you haven't been scoring recently, to see that ball go into the back of the net is probably a big deal, especially since going into one of the bigger games that he's going to play this season.
It was nice to see him get 35, 40 minutes. I mean, if he's fit, he's fit. If he's not fit, he's not fit. And if Van Dijk's fit, he's fit. If he's not fit, he's not fit.
Is Thiago fit?
I think he's broken. I mean, he came off with a hamstring injury in about the 44th minute. So I don't think he's playing. But Liverpool's midfield doesn't necessarily need Thiago. They've shown that before. They have midfielders that can play without Thiago. And we'll talk about it more later on.
Yeah.
But,
we'll put
I'm
a nice
happy.
Yeah. Larry, you alluded to it, just the sheer magnitude of Mo's numbers. It is, at the end of the day, Mo and Heung-min Son, who share the Golden Boot for the Premier League. Both full credit to both of them. And what an accomplishment for both of those. We're going to welcome in our good friend, Chelsea Mike, who I know has something to say about this conversation. It wouldn't be a Too Many Guys soccer show with Will and Mike if there wasn't shade being thrown at some point, even though we are indoors and there are no trees. So, Mike, go for it.
I didn't go far enough west, I guess, to just be Johnny Cool over there, the Prince of Darkness. I mean, are you kidding me? Liverpool are 2 spot kicks away from having won nothing this year. 2 spot kicks away from nothing.
I think you're just projecting here, because you're 2 spot kicks away from winning nothing as well this year, and you didn't win anything. So,
well, no,
have a nice bit of projection.
No, that's incorrect though, because
sorry, I forgot about the Club World Cup. Yeah, back when
the Super Cup.
When Liverpool wins the Club World Cup next season, then I'll remember that trophy. But right now, it doesn't mean anything.
We won the Club World Cup and the Super Cup, so we got 2. You guys got 2. I mean, it was a pretty even season considering they played 360 minutes of completely drawn football.
Yeah, but you lost twice in 360 minutes. I don't know what you're complaining about. Like, losing 2 times in 360 minutes is not very good.
No, we didn't lose. We drew
I think
4 times.
I think if you check the scores, the outcome of the game is a Chelsea loss. I think if you go on the internet, you can type it in and you can look it up. And at the end of the games that really matter, the outcome of the score is a loss for Chelsea. So I think this is a little bit of projection.
No, you know what? Maybe we lost the game, but we'll always have the memory of Kepa just, I don't know, doing whatever the hell he was doing against Virgil van Dijk, and Virgil van Dijk just saying, "Screw you, Kepa," and sending it right to that side. I mean, even I laughed at that.
I mean, I was going to sign off and just stop talking, but I agree that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Will, I have a serious question for you here. So if it, like, I know you said you're just happy with the way the season's gone. They've entertained you and, you know, all Liverpool fans. But if they lose the Champions League and with the talent they have and the way that, you know, you might not say you have goals in the beginning of the season or they don't, but if you end up with the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, is that a successful season for you?
Absolutely. For me,
Okay.
yeah. And I think that a large portion of the Liverpool fan base will say yes. Now, of course, there are going to be those speculations. Oh, is it good enough on the media side of it? But I really don't think that it's going to be an issue for real Liverpool fans. And as you, I mean, to take the words out of your mouth, losing the Champions League is an issue for real City fans. And I think there's a difference in the fan base philosophy there.
No, and I would agree with you, especially considering the Premier League was the last day and this is the finals of the Champions League. If you went out in the knockout stages, you know, earlier, or City won the league by 12 points, then I would disagree with what you're saying, but I would agree with what you're saying.
It's hard to look at a season like that having been you know, Manchester United had a similar sort of season back in 2008, 2009, coming off where we went to won the League Cup, won the Club World Cup, won the league, went to the Champions League final. In the end of it, we came out with a Club World Cup, a League Cup, and a Premier League, not the treble. And it was still a great season. I think, you know, we will look at this, and we talked about this a little bit between Stead and I, you know, had they won the league, had they gone in, we could have looked at them as being one of the historic teams of all time. I'm sure that all Liverpool fans will remember this as a great season, a fun season, a season where you played until the final day in the league, won a League Cup, won an FA Cup, went to the Champions League final, no matter what the outcome, and say this was a really good, successful season. I think the difference is, you know, when we look at it and say you know, they fell short of being able to make history, but there's a reason why that's history. It's because nobody's ever done it, and we realize how tough it is to do it. So, yeah, Larry, Will, I thank you both for coming on and giving us your opinions on the end of the title race. And yes, Sean.
I was just going to ask Larry, how many points are you going to win the league by next season, Larry, with the goal machine that you've just purchased for a ridiculous amount of money?
City will be up in the 90s, but I expect Liverpool to be up there, right there with them. So it might be another, maybe like 3 or 4 next year. I think it won't go to the last day.
0. Will's already making his prediction. All right, Mike, we got a little bit of time left, and this is where you justify the existence of the lower league segment by giving us all the information on the ups and downs, what remains of the Premier League, the playoffs in the various leagues. We saw Sunderland book their place this weekend in the Championship. Thoroughly, I got to say, thoroughly outplaying Wycombe Wanderers at Wembley. Yet another victory for Sunderland.
Yeah, yet another. It was like, well, they won the FA trophy at Wembley,
Yes.
but outside of that, empty. They won it at an empty Wembley. So this is the first time that they've ever won anything in an occupied Wembley since the start of the playoffs about 40 years ago. So yeah, no, I mean, great season for Sunderland. It didn't go to script, right? Because the script is Sunderland goes to Wembley and fails. So no, yeah, their first time being promoted via the playoffs. Their first goal, the game winner, came from Elliot Embleton, who is an academy product. Their second goal was Ross Stewart, who's been their talisman all year. So great storylines in addition to the the great outcome. Sunderland, a side that just has a stadium that's too good for League One. They have a fan base that's too big for League One, but they famously and epically have a management that is League One worthy. And we got to see every in and out of that on television, which is why Sunderland probably, Mike, what would you say? Sunderland, one of the top 10 most popular teams, English teams in the States?
In the States?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're one of the top 10 English teams. I mean, when you think about, they're definitely a big team in England simply because when you look at Tyneside, there's not much up there. But they don't have the Premier League pedigree. It's hard to quantify them now because they got a huge boost domestically from the Sunderland Till I Die documentary. But the problem was, if you were a neophyte fan and you watched that and you decided, okay, I'm going to watch Sunderland, it became awfully, awfully, awfully hard to follow them because they were tumbling down the leagues. And because, even in the COVID times, ESPN and the other outlets didn't necessarily have the same coverage of the lower leagues that they do right now. So if just off the top of my head, you have the big six easily. West Ham still has a lot of fans. They would be probably seventh. Everton, maybe Newcastle has a lot of fans around here. Mm-hmm. And I don't. Yeah, it gets hard for me to come up with them, but let's say they're one of the more popular teams over here. They do have their fans who support them. I think they got a huge bump from Sunderland Till I Die. I just don't think they were adequately able to take advantage of it because of the fact that they spent so many years down in the lower leagues following that, and add on to the fact that they discontinued it after 2 seasons when they should have kept going.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been really interesting to see, first of all, how things have changed, because obviously they've kind of righted the ship enough to go back to the championship next year anyway. Now, will they stay in the championship next year? They're going to have to do a lot of work because they would be the 24th best team in the championship right now, as they are. But it wasn't the best game of the weekend, but it was certainly a very watchable game at Wembley. Drama till late. You've got the Wickham drama there. Akinfenwa got to come on and was immediately a 40-year-old, 250, 300-pound man. Akinfenwa, 40 years old, in his last game, came on and saw the ball immediately. But unfortunately, there was no late-minute magic for him or Wickham. And then, Sunderland kind of came back out on the counterattack and put home the one that solidified the match. But all in all, I would say Sunderland being back in the championships a boost for not only for them, obviously, but for the league. I think getting in a big time, anytime they get, if they were to have had Everton, anytime they get a big time team, big time fan base, better for the championship, better for football.
Well, whatever happened to Lee Cattermole? It's not like watching Sunderland without Lee Cattermole chopping people down in midfield. Or is he too old to play now?
It's maybe slightly.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. You'd have to ask him. I'm sure he would disagree.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
So, Mike, in league, coming up, we still have 2 more lower league playoff games to go. If I'm not mistaken, it is Mansfield Town and Port Vale in the League Two final, and is Huddersfield in the champion in the playoff Premier League playoff game.
Yeah, Huddersfield Forest.
Huddersfield and Forest in the so the richest game in the world coming up this weekend, I believe, before the Champions League final, if I'm not mistaken.
No, so we have your entremet is the League Two final. That's on Saturday at 11. Sunday at 11:30 is Huddersfield Nottingham Forest.
All right, the richest, most valuable game in the world. All right, let's start with the League Two playoff. Mansfield Town and Port Vale. What should we be looking for on Saturday?
Well, first of all, you're going to get two unusually evenly matched teams here. Mansfield was the 7th best side in League Two this year. Port Vale were 4th, but they were only separated by Port Vale were 5th, one extra step down. They were only separated by 1 point. The bookies have it at Mansfield 17-10, Port Vale 9-5, which is on a $10 bet of Mansfield, you'd get 17. On a $10 bet at Port Vale, you'd get 18. So, you just think about how even the bookies, and draw is only 2-1. So people are expecting to see this game go longer than 90 minutes. For Port Vale, you've got James Wilson. He scored in both of the legs of the semifinal. He's one to watch out for. Reese Oates for Mansfield Town. Those two guys they've been their big strikers all year. So look to those guys for some striking threats. I think you're going to see goals. League Two games don't go 0-0 usually, unless they're tense playing in front of that many people. And I think there'll be more people there than they're used to. Certainly won't be as many as were for the League One match. Sunderland travels well.
Who's Port Vale's biggest fan? Or most famous fan, I should say.
Who is that?
Robbie Williams.
Robbie
Williams. Yeah.
There you go.
So he'll be there. He'll have a box then.
I'm sure he will.
And as far as the world's most valuable game in between Huddersfield and Nottingham Forest.
Come on, Forest.
That seems to be a general reaction, Sean. A lot of us are excited to see Forest, a team that is another big one who not a lot of people here know about, and by here I mean in the States, but outside of the sheriff of. But Nottingham Forest is a historic team, a founding member of the Premier League, a big team that fell on some hard times, and we have not gotten to see play in the Premier League recently. So a lot of people are excited to see them with the opportunity to come back.
Yeah.
So Mike, tell us about what we can expect from this one.
Right. Well, I mean, here's what everybody wants. Forest haven't been in the Premier League since 1999. And you know what? They chalked off a bunch of wins towards the end of the season. However, it's been choppier over the last couple. They lost their opportunity to go up automatically. Right when they lost to Bournemouth in the last week of the season. So I think Forest have been sort of dealing with the disappointment in that. They didn't look lights out against Sheffield United, having to go to penalties to win there. And of course, Bryce Samba, the goalie for Bryce Samba's a guy to watch out for. Big goalie, Nottingham Forest, made an absolutely amazing toe tip save to keep Forest in it, because Sheffield could have won in extra time, and then made 3 saves in in the shootout. But Huddersfield are a town that, or a team that we haven't really talked about a lot on this show, but they've been consistently good throughout the League Two season. I'm sorry to say it, but I think you're going to see Huddersfield get promoted on Sunday.
Well,
and like that excites no one at all. Trust me, it doesn't even delight me to say that, but they've been just one of the subtly good trucking along teams in the championship this year. And, you know, they were still in there for automatic promotion in the last week of the season. So, you know, I want to see Forest. That's the better story, but I think it's going to be Huddersfield.
Well, I know I'm hoping because, you know, Ethan Horvath is a U.S. player. He's on that roster. James Garner, Manchester United loanee on Forest, wanting to see Forest for the first time back in a long time. I will answer this question, though, Sean, before you ask it. Huddersfield Town, I believe their celebrity fan is Patrick Stewart.
Oh, is it? Star Trek fame.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
X-Men.
Yes, he probably is, yeah.
Yeah, I seem to remember scenes of him when they came up to the Premier League the first time, all decked out in his scarf, looking.
Oh, was he?
His because he was in LA watching the game quite early, sitting in a bed in a hotel, with his Huddersfield gear on, watching the game at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So that's the only reason why I know that. All right, Mike, thanks a lot. We'll get you back on next week to recap all the final action in the playoffs, and you can finally put the promoted teams and fill out the remainder of the leagues.
Yeah, no, I will. I am going to do a lower league short for you. So like and subscribe on YouTube. And I will do eulogies for Watford and for
Burnley.
And Burnley's
been
a long time coming. And we'll do celebrations of Sunderland. So stay tuned, and I'll go in more depth on previews.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you a lot. It has been a lot of fun. Time goes flashing by. Sean, so good to have you back. We have missed you, my good friend. Hopefully,
I've missed you guys too. Been watching from afar. Once, so well done, producer, for getting the shows up every week.
Good to have you
back. If you haven't had a chance to check out Professor Matt's short, it's very good.
Yes,
it's very good. Very good.
This is his one on
Professor Matt. What could have been with Yugoslavia? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very good. I listened to it twice, actually. It's actually quite informative. I was like, wow, this is some in-depth stuff here. So yeah. Applaud Professor Matt.
And just to let you know, the kids are going through exams at the minute. They're doing the GCSEs, but when they're out of the way in about a month's time, I should be able to get hold of Alfie Pond, who will be Exeter's new centre half. Apparently he's going to get in the first team next season. So, and the good news about Sunderland going up is I've just looked. Exeter don't have to worry about travelling the length of the country, because they obviously had Carlisle in the same league this year, and now Sunderland has gone. I don't think they've got more than a 200-mile trip next year, so that's good. And Otto's even talking about wanting a season ticket, would you believe? Here we go. Which is good. So,
yeah, we will definitely be paying close attention to Exeter next year on our pod. They are our lower league darlings. All right, Mike, good to have you as always. I want to send a big shout out to Coach G and Cam for coming on earlier in the show. Larry, of course, thank you for coming on, giving us the city perspective on it. Will, who had to run the Prince of Darkness himself in fine Prince of Darkness form. You can't make that man up, man. Coming on, just throwing those zingers. And of course, Byron Rob for coming on, playing Stat Boy as he always does, and keeping us up to date on all things going on in the Bundesliga. And of course, Producer Stead, thank you very much, sir, for making sure that all of this runs on time and that we get everything done. Again, we will be back later on in the week to do a full preview on the Champions League final. Stay on the lookout for Mike's lower league report. If you haven't had a chance to listen to Professor Matt's take on Yugoslavia and what could have been, give that a listen. I do believe he's also going to do another one when he gets back. He's out of town the first part of this week, but we hope to hear from him later, and we'll have him back on when we do our UCL preview to give us his perspective on all things Liverpool. Gentlemen, it has been a lot of fun. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week. So for the entire cast of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, I am Mike, and have a great week.